you a woman in medicine feeling overwhelmed and disconnected from the personal fulfillment that you desire? You're in the right place. Join Doctors Joanne and Aaron as they rewrite the rules for women in medicine. Let's begin.
We have a special episode for you all. I'm here with my super co-host, Dr. Erin Hurley. And this is going to be something that sounds different than what we usually talk about, but it's fully in alignment. We are going to be talking about creativity. And you might be thinking, why is this important? Why are you guys talking about it? So let's go straight in. Erin, tell us about creativity and give us some examples so that we get our brains going with it.
Well, I love this topic, creativity, because we don't often think about it in medicine. And yet, if you're going to solve a problem and it's really complicated, we need to be more creative. How are we going to come up with those out-of-the-box answers? And in my opinion, medicine has gotten so much more complicated lately that the old standard solutions no longer are relevant to medicine today. And if we are just relying on old answers or thinking inside the box, we're not going to come up with solutions that are going to be helpful. And we sometimes say that, what got you to where you're at now is not what's going to get to your future success, right? Unless you want to stay at a plateau. And so if you want things to get better, then that's about getting more creative and pulling in additional resources so that you can find things that you might not have been aware of. And so for me, I think I link creativity with problem solving. And when I find that I'm stuck, so for a while I was feeling a bit stuck in the rut, I've been revamping my website and looking at some other unique features that we can offer our listeners that we've been teasing about recently. And that takes creativity. And yet I was feeling kind of stuck. And so I'll share a little later about some of the things that I've tapped into in order to get unstuck. But again, if you think about creativity can also boost our relationships. And so if you're in a marriage or in a long-term relationship, it's not like you were, in the beginning and dating and everything's fresh and new. Maybe I've been with my husband for 28 and a half years, married almost 25. And yet we find ways to keep our relationship strong. And part of that is having new experiences together. We went to Pittsburgh for the first time a few weeks ago with our daughter and her boyfriend and went to a concert, explored the city. None of us had been there before. So we introduced novelty that added some new things, again, adding creativity and nuance into our relationships. What are your thoughts on that, Joanne? Any reflections about the importance of creativity?
And with my psychiatry hat on, creativity is something that I recommend to my patients as well, because we know that it's protective for a lot of mental health struggles. And it actually activates parts of our brains that we don't usually use, especially if we're not necessarily like artistic, which is what a lot of people associate creativity with. And so it can help with your mood. It can help with cognitive problems, to protect problems with memory in the future. So I always say, try to do something creative. And that's the response that I get of, well, but I don't know what to do and I'm not artistic. And even if it's picking up one of those adult coloring books, so it's something that's that I really like and kind of also in terms of boosting our energy and doing something different, like you're saying, and getting out of our box of what we normally do. So many benefits to creativity. I like it, but yet we don't always find the time or give ourselves permission, or we almost judge ourselves when we're just thinking about it in with that filter. So that's, it leads to my next question of, why is it important when I can hear the obstacles already of, how we minimize it. Why is it important, especially for women in medicine, to tap into their creativity?
One of the big reasons is that we are oftentimes relied upon to be the problem solvers, whether that's at work, especially if you're a leader in medicine, whether that's at home, because oftentimes women are the ones taking bigger roles in taking care of their families, planning family vacation, addressing the kids' needs, dealing with the kids' issues at school. And I see the world now as everything's gotten more complicated, right? Post-pandemic, I don't want us to ignore or minimize the impact. The impact's not over yet. And everything, I believe, has gotten, I don't know how many times more complicated. And so we need to be creative, especially solving solutions. We need to be creative leaders. We need to be creative parents and spouses. And we are used to being experts in medicine, right? We have that perfectionism. We went through years and years of training, some people even decades, to get your specialty in medicine. We're used to kind of knowing maybe not everything, but a lot of information. When we stretch into creativity, there's a little bit of unknown. Maybe you're not the best at being creative. And yet, are there ways that you can challenge yourself to get unstuck? Because where you're creative in one way, so maybe you're creative in playing chess or doing crossword puzzles, and that creativity, or being a musician, learning another language, the creativity used in those other areas can oftentimes unlock where you're stuck in other areas. And there's been, I don't remember which book it is. I'm going to say it's probably the book Rest, which is over on my shelf here. I don't remember the author of that book, but they talked about researchers, I think it was at UCLA, and the researchers that went on to win Nobel Prizes for the work they did in their labs and in their research were not the ones that were only researchers. They found that the people who were so creative and had these breakthroughs so much so that they were recognized to get a prize like that were the ones who had big outside interests. Or maybe they went for strolls around the campus. Maybe they did mountaineering. Maybe they were, an athlete in some kind of competition. They had outside lives that oftentimes help them unlock their primary career focus. And in medicine, I don't think that we pay enough attention about our outside lives. And sometimes we give them up for many years. I know for me, I grew up skiing, water skiing, snow skiing, didn't do that for most of my medical career, gave up art and music and study of language, all those things. And I think how much more creative could I have been in unlocking potential as a physician and as a leader in medicine had I created more space for those creative areas of my life that I kind of shelved for too many decades.
And what's coming to mind hearing you explain it like that is how much our lives will be more balanced and in more harmony if we added more creativity in our lives, and how that's beautiful energy that we can leverage for the other things that we want to do. And yet we were programmed to give more value to how much we work and like other things. And it's so nice to really pause and zoom out and be, what else can I add to my life that will expand and help me ascend and protect my brain and give me energy and sense of fulfillment and even more connection and maybe sharing ideas with other people, right? Like I'm hearing you talk and it was like my shoulders dropped of like, oh, this is so neat of how life can feel different if we added more creativity. This is so
and how
important.
much more joy, right? How many people associate joy with medicine? And yet if we gave ourselves permission to expand our creative side, could we be more joyful? And how would that spill into how medicine is practiced if there was more joy in the world?
And this sounds like such a good idea, right? Not just like a random idea, but something so important. How can we get more, and how do we even start?
Well, I made a list of some of the different things that you can do. And one is paying attention to what are other people doing. So an example from my life this week, it's springtime. I usually have a little garden and go to the Saturday market and pick up some different tomato plants and some herbs and things. And I hadn't done that yet because I've been traveling so much. And when I met with one of my clients, they loved to garden and yet they hadn't been doing it for a while. They were in a slump. And so they shared with me, I got some plants in the ground. I went back to my gardening. I got connected with the earth, and, getting your hands dirty and then multiplying the positive effects. I planted my tomato plants that I bought, and I planted some herbs. And I think, like, this is fueling future me, which we talked about. How can we, do well by the future me, dreaming of what's that organic homegrown food I'm going to have later this summer because I'm planting today. How is that benefiting me? Putting my hands in the soil, getting my hands dirty, getting in connection with nature, spending time outside. And how can I use my past experiences with gardening to make this year's garden even more fulfilling? So that was my prompt for bringing this up, because what happened was that happened on, maybe it was on a Tuesday. Wednesday, I had some big breakthroughs in creativity. I had ideas for, actually later that same day, for some writing prompts for my newsletter, for my blog. I had some ideas for my website, things that I might be able to offer for our listener here. It just had some big breakthroughs, and I had been stuck for a while. And I thought, okay, there's your reminder, Erin. Getting outside, getting in the garden is helping more areas of my life than just getting my garden in order. And that's just one area. We talked before about musicality, whether, if you don't like playing an instrument, maybe it's listening to music or listening to live music. What kind of music inspires you? What about dance? Could you either, do some body movement or even watch a dance production? Some people enjoy doing things with our hands. So unless you're a surgeon or constantly doing different things, oftentimes we're in our brains and not so connected to our bodies. So things like knitting or crocheting or drawing, sketching, and painting are other ways. One of my clients creates her own jewelry and works with, what is the term she taught me? It's about cutting stones. It'll come to me. Anyway, all these creative outlets. And when we're not doing well, sometimes we shelf those because we just don't feel like we have the energy. But just like going to the gym, which can also boost your creativity, those creative outlets, just forcing yourself to do it, dabble in it, get back into it, get your hands on those things again, can sometimes open up the door and build some momentum to go, oh, I missed that. How can I reinvigorate that aspect of my life? And then pay attention, raise your awareness about what doors is that unlocking for you. How about you, Joanne? What things open your creative doors for you?
I know I'm here like all excited, thinking already of getting enthusiastic about what can happen. And I'm also thinking of, with the time limits that we might believe we have, how can we even make what we are already doing more creative, right? Like, even if trying a new recipe, adding more colors to your food, or if you're always eating in the same table for dinner with your family, maybe even just putting a table outside or creating like a picnic, and the doodling, journaling, writing things that, just a couple of minutes. And like you mentioned, music and dancing, that was what was going through my mind, in that it's not a huge time investment, but it's a beautiful return of the investment, because it'll boost a different kind of energy, and again, activate our brains in a different way. So yeah, I'm here thinking, what can I do today that kind of boosts my creativity? It's so neat. Yeah, and again, it's tapping into that more I won't say childish, but like maybe more jovial energy in me already, even just hearing you talk. Thank you. I've written a lot of notes, and I'm going to give myself lovely homework of connecting with my creativity, but I wanted to point out a few of the important things that you said, because again, we tend to minimize creativity as if it was something optional. And I loved how you started talking about how we need it even for problem solving in our complicated days, and even when we're practicing medicine, and then how we can use it as leverage to then think of other ideas, be better at decision making, because we have broadened our brain and our energy. And how, of course, we talk about connection and boosting our relationship, and how when we think of some of the struggles that we go through, how creativity could be a beautiful resource to deal with our perfectionism or out of our comfort zone into something new, and how it can help us in terms of our mental health and protecting ourselves for dementia in the future. And I love also the idea of how it can get us unstuck, because usually when we're stuck, our brain doesn't think of ideas, obviously, as part of what we're stuck. And then we're like, I don't have resources, I don't have time. And maybe that pause to take a break, to do something creative, and then come back could be all that we need to do to expand our options and expand our interests. So neat. And I love how this is part of what we're here for, to learn new tools, to expand our vision, and to get more balance, joy, and fulfillment in our lives. So thank you so much for all the ideas. Erin, anything that came up that you want to add to this beautiful content?
One topic that I think I've brought up on this podcast before, I know I brought it up at the recent women's retreat that I led, was this idea of ritual and ceremony. And if we think about tribal cultures, cultures in the past where they would have community get-togethers with playing music together, dancing and things, that's not that common in our hustle culture these days. And those things, go by the wayside, even in our school systems, right? When they're cutting budgets. And can we recognize the benefits? If having music and dance was part of your culture, or historical culture, and it's not part of your culture now, can you create your own ritual and ceremony? I have one friend, she dances every morning before she leaves for work. Imagine the creativity that boosts for her, and that's part of her own ritual. And so can you create little rituals? Don't overcomplicate it. Get a little curious. And what if you created 2 minutes, 5 minutes per day to challenge yourself to add some creativity into your schedule and just plan for it. Try it out. Do a pilot project. You don't have to overcommit. Try it out and then pay attention and see what might shift in your life.
So powerful, Erin. And I love that. Create your own rituals. What a way to boost our creativity just there. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I hope you all had the same kind of excitement and inspiration that I have. And if you've been enjoying our show, don't hesitate to rate, review, share it. This is how we get in front of other people. And be in the lookout, because we will be adding more resources in our website, createmeaninginmedicine.com. And with that, stay tuned. Our next episode is coming right up.
Do you want exclusive resources and the opportunity to connect with us? Then visit createmeaninginmedicine.com now, where you'll dive deeper into how you can create meaning in medicine. And if you're serious about optimizing your results, take 2 quick steps now. Connect with us on the website and tune in to the next episode.